1, 2, 3. Okay, I can at least do that. Okay, I think that's working now. Cool. All right, I think we're in good shape here. Waiting for you guys to, let me turn this down just a little bit. Seems a little hot. How are you guys? Just checking in. Let's double check to make sure this is working here, because we got some, all part of my new, all the studio deal and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. Took me a minute, but welcome. I can hear you guys now, so I'm going to follow along with your questions. First and foremost, weather impact meteorologist Gary Frank with an update. Obviously, we've got some changes here. You know, the number one key factor is they're moving our studio. So I'm still hiding in the studio. I bounce back and forth. If you guys follow along on the air, you've probably seen the changes in the set. That's why I had to get some things all kind of figured out behind this. So that's kind of where we are with this. But we're going to figure this out for you, and I know you guys can hear me now, so that's positive here. I want to update you on the storms that are heading our way this weekend. We talked about winter storms. I'm going to follow along and, update you here. I'll answer your questions on Facebook. I'm going to go through this. Then I'm going to also, on our 314-425-5355, I got you here. I'm going to go through this. First and foremost, the full screen version of this is, we're going to deal with snow. Rain and snows this week. Bottom line, if you're tuning in for 2 seconds and you want to follow along, the bottom line is we're going to be dealing with near freezing Saturday morning. Now, rain and snow are going to be on the way Saturday, but this may not stick, and we've got travel more difficult, though. So regardless, if it doesn't stick and you're just dealing with snow, rain and snow, that's okay, right? We can deal with that. It's an early season type event. We can handle that. But the biggest issue for us is we got rain and snow. So first and foremost, I'm going to go through this whole thing, and we'll talk about what's going on here. I'm going to go through this whole thing. You guys want to fire up your questions in the chat or text the line, 314-425-5355. I got the chat open. I'll try to answer your questions the best that I can. At the end, we'll go through all of it, and we'll discuss what's happening. So from a standpoint of what's going on here, here's where we are in terms of, what's happening here. We're going to continue to deal with near freezing conditions here Saturday morning. But here's what we're in store for. Our next weather impact alert day is on the way. We've got a rain-snow mix that's coming. It's coming Saturday, whether we like it or not, right? And unfortunately, it's a busy time that we're going to see travel, things like that. Obviously, a lot of people may be traveling Saturday or have connecting flights to try to get back Sunday before they go back to work or school on Monday. That's understandable. It will have some ripple effects in the region, and that's what I want to highlight as well. Now, the amount of cold air is going to be in question locally. It's cold, but it's not as cold as it can be, and whether or not we see the dividing line between that really cold air and whether or not we're going to have accumulating snow. It has challenges this time of the year because in November, we're in a top 15 warm months, right? So those are the first three things that I want you to know ahead. Right now, of course, the next several hours, it's in the 50s. Cherish today. This is our warmest day of the next 7 without a doubt, right? It's foggy. It's been this way for a while. Now, the back edge of that fog is on the way. This all right here, as I kind of pull this up, this is all cold air, and this all part of this entire system. That's not snow that's going to impact us. That's someone else's problem, right? This has been dragging rain in our system, and that's also dragging in some of this colder air for us here. And like I said, the next several hours, no problem. I'm going to get you through to the holiday, and then that week we can talk about all the meaty stuff here. The back edge of this might drag a few showers in, then it clears out. It's much colder tomorrow, right? Here's where we are with Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday ahead of the holiday, because you're going to continue to see breezy conditions. For Thursday, it's chilly and it's cold on Friday. Those 3 days alone have no problems whatsoever, right? We have no problems whatsoever with those days. It's cold. It's a little breezy. You're going to have a nice holiday. If you're driving around the area within about a 5-hour stretch on those days, you're just fine. After that, things change, and that's where we are right now, because I want you to look at this really cold air to the north. As we talk about where this cold air is, that's what we're dealing with here. You've got temperatures that are in the single digits throughout the area. And a couple of things here as we look at where this cold air is here. This is something that, it's bottling up. It's taking a minute to get here. It does not want to come here quickly, but that's what's going to be eventually working its way in, right? So that's the first thing, that as we have wintry precipitation return Friday night into Saturday, we are going to have a wintry mix regardless of snowfall accumulation. And I'll share these. I'll show you some of the Fantasyland snowfall maps, and we'll talk about why we don't share those, right? And we're not there yet, simply because how much cold air is going to come in, right? The travel delays still seem to be the biggest issue for me, all things considered. So let's look at Futurecast. Oh, if you've been following along online, either here on 5 Plus, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're joining us from, on air, we appreciate all of them. But I've tried to show you kind of up to Friday night to where this was, right? Because I don't want to show you snow and get you all excited and then it changes, because that's the way that these things work, especially when these systems are far out in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, I kind of showed you this one here in Alaska. This is really where this system is. I drag you this, and you look at, these are where a lot of these systems originate at this time of the year, where we look in Alaska and you have, this whole mess here. This is all part of this entire area where we're going to watch this piece of energy work its way all the way up into the Pacific Northwest and eventually work its way and slide closer to here, right? It's going to ride this jet stream. You can kind of see where this line goes. I'm going to kind of draw this for you because I want to give you an idea of where this is, right? This is generally the track of where this thing is going, right? We're following that piece of energy along as it goes along that line and strengthens along this jet stream. That's what's headed our way. So as it does so, it's going to bring us our next chance for rain and snow as it interacts with that cold air that comes in from Canada, right? But how far does that move south? Well, here's where we are for early morning Saturday. And I kind of have paused this right about Saturday morning. I think Saturday morning is the most impactful day for a couple of reasons. One, it's the coldest air we're probably going to see throughout the day because, and normally I kind of pull this back out to myself, but I'm going to draw this a little bit more. I'm going to draw something on this because I can, because normally, like I said, we're in this temp studio and my lights are off and I can't pull back out and draw and show you exactly what I want. But I want to show you one thing here, and just in terms of where I can draw this on here for you, because I think that's going to give us a better idea of what's going on. Let's show you what's happening. Let me draw this, pause that right there. So I want to show you right about here, because even through the first part of the day, notice how we have this dividing line where we have colder air, but look at all this warmer air to the southwest. That's what I think is going to be the case throughout the rest of the day. Now, we may see rain and snow, but I think this warmer air probably nudges up. And look at the ripple effects that this is likely to cause, especially in Chicago. Big connecting airport for a lot of us. You're traveling up, you're traveling up to Litchfield, up 55. Those are the things for me where I think that's going to be the biggest impacts for us right now. So in terms of that. However, there will be other impacts as well. But I want to point out and show you a couple of different things here as I can kind of give you a better idea of what's going on. I want to show you what this looks like. Now, I'm going to show you 3 different forecast models here, and this kind of gives you a better idea. You'll notice where this low is right about here. That's the position of where this low is. We have plenty of cold air here, but also kind of where I'm dragging it right about here. That's where we continue to see this warmer air, because as we notice, this is a counterclockwise motion around this low. So it's dragging in a warmer air from the southwest. Now it interacts, it's also bringing in moisture, but it also interacts with this northern edge of this really cold air to the north. So that's why we're kind of on the dividing line of this, right? So I bring in one forecast model. Look at the other one. Look at the difference here. Look at where that low is in a similar position, right? It's over Oklahoma. Look at the difference there. Those are the differences right about there, right? So yeah, it may vary by a couple of hours, but it's still a pretty good difference. And then look at this forecast model. It's in central Oklahoma, and this also has more of a mix of other things. Now, I think this is an unlikely scenario, but this also has more cold air that's brought down versus, let's say, this one where we're kind of on the edge of things. This is all for Saturday morning. So that's why it's important to note when we're bringing up several of these, and I look at only a couple of forecast models that this particular computer can bring up, I show you why it is difficult to find out solutions and what we're dealing with into Saturday. Those are the main things. Now, I want to bring in a couple you can see them on this map, which is, to me, a little friendlier, right? I can kind of give you a better idea. This is one of those models I just showed you. Look at Saturday, right? You have model number 2. I got that up there first just because that's the way I put them in the computer. But as far as extended models that go out further than some of the higher resolution models, which are in a shorter amount of time. We're about to get to that point where we're going to see some of that higher resolution data. But you'll notice, look at model number 1. Same time, 8 o'clock Saturday, 8 o'clock Saturday, right? Little different, but similar to some degree, right? So we're getting there. To me, model number 1 has fallen behind. Model number 2 has been, kind of caught up a little bit. Model number 2 has kind of been there, but it's also bringing a little bit more snow. Now, here's the key. Even if we get snow, that's fine, right? We're seeing temperatures at this hour. Let me get you right to 5 o'clock in the morning. Look at these temperatures right here. 6, 7, 8 o'clock, you have temperatures that are right around freezing. I'm going to pause this here. Like I said, I generally can drag this a little easier, but I'm going to pause this right about here. Notice how temperatures here in Litchfield, Jerseyville, a little colder to the north, right? You have all this colder air that's kind of settled in place. And I think once we continue to see temperatures right around freezing, now if those numbers come down a little bit, it doesn't matter if it's right around freezing or just above it. If it's snowing hard enough and we have high snowfall rates like this could indicate, that could make, obviously, travel a little more difficult, right? But it also is definitely going to cover the grassy surfaces. It gets colder quicker. And if we have high snowfall rates, even on the pavement, if it's snowing hard enough, well, that's going to make the pavement cold, and it could coat the surface, right? So there are going to be issues in some cases. But how far south does this go, and how long does that snow continue? That remains to be seen, especially when you look at a time where 7 a.m., the sun is not even risen yet. So anytime that stuff happens before the morning and the sun's up, even if the sun's not coming up through the clouds, it does make a difference. So those are all factors that go into snowfall, right? So I think those are 3, 4, 5 important things that we have to think about in regards to where the temperatures go. Now, one thing that is starting to become more clear, I think, is we're seeing temperatures 36, 37, 38 by the afternoon. Watch how our temps gradually rise. To me, that's important because then the rest of the day you're traveling is fine, but to the north, it's not fine. So I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe 3 or 4 counties included in a winter weather advisory by the time this is all said and done. Now, keep in mind this is Tuesday, and one of the things that we bring out is the fact that, rain snow mix is going to be on track for Saturday. There's no doubt about that. But slick spots may develop despite the warm ground because of the reasons I just mentioned, right? So it's the southern extent of this air. Where does it go, right? This is Sunday, but this is Saturday, right? It's coming at some point. It's definitely coming, and I think you're going to see a lot of this colder air, but it's a matter of how far south does it go for Saturday? It's fighting that little nudge of warm air, and I think that's going to be important for us here as we continue to look at that. So that's one thing I want to point out. Now, here's a good idea of where our temperatures could be, right? I talked about those temperatures. I use one forecast model here, but I'll edit this on the fly so you can see what kind of things I'm looking at here, and also to kind of give you an idea of what's happening here. Because as we continue to focus on this, let's look at, our temperatures right now. This is one of the models here. This is the American model, just to kind of give you an idea. You have temps at 33, 34. Let's just edit this on the fly and just change it to European model. I should be able to change this to Canadian as well, but this computer does not allow me to go out. So this is European model. Let me change it to our temperatures. See, look at the difference there. You're at 31, 32. This is the GFS, bringing in slightly colder air. So we go from American versus European. Now, it doesn't mean one's right versus the other, but these are the things that we look at to kind of give us an idea. Not sure if it's going to let me get the temps cold enough for that. Yeah, it doesn't quite go out that far in this computer. So, like I said, that's one of the things I looked at. Notice the 3 to 4 degree difference in temperature, right? So here's what we know, right? In terms of rain and snow being expected Saturday, the biggest impacts we have Saturday morning, well, temperatures gradually warm. This is what we know for sure. Rain and snow is coming Saturday, right? The biggest impacts are going to be on Saturday morning because of when it's cold. That's when I think it's the coldest of the day, regardless of what's going on. Now, temperatures gradually warm in the afternoon. So if you have outdoor plans or you're coming up, driving back in the afternoon, I don't think you have as many problems than maybe you have in the morning. Now, the roads are going to be wet, but I don't think it's as much of an issue at that time. Now, here's what is still in question, right? If temperatures can get below freezing, then yeah, we're going to have more problems, right? I think if the longer they're below freezing or the colder it is, the more problems we're going to have. Doesn't matter how cold or how warm the ground has been. Can snow overcome the warm ground? and how much snow accumulates. And while we're talking about this, I can actually bring in, idea of, let's talk about how much snow is going to accumulate, because, I like to bring this up from a standpoint of how much snow is going to fall. But to me, it's something that, you look at some of these places and it's like, well, okay, well, this is how much snow we're going to get. Well, let me look at the difference here between one model and the other, right? This is what doesn't do it justice, because not all the times, I'm going to do this on the fly for you so you can see this a little bit better. I try to always do this ahead of time because the way the system works, I can poke around a little better with it, but that doesn't mean it's not worth looking at. So I want to give you an idea. People ask about how much snow we're going to get, why you guys don't show it early on, and what's going on. Let me zoom in here, and then I can pull this up for you. This will make a lot more sense once we get to that point here. I'm going to pan this down a little bit. They've actually made this a little easier for me. But let's see, that's perfect. So now if I play this, look at how one of these snowfall maps shows up, right? This looks like a giant snow belt at the end of the weekend, right? That's unbelievable, right? I think you look at this and you go, oh my gosh, we're going to get a ton of snow. Well, I'm just picking these on the fly because I'm telling you what, they are all different. And the reason they're all different is because they all find different ways to quantify how warm it's going to be, and also quantify the melting and warm surface. They all have different looks at maybe their algorithm, things like that, So they're all a little bit different. But the fact that we're starting to see more of them come together in terms of, yeah, there's going to be some sort of accumulating snow, but how much of that accumulating snow actually sticks, how much of it melts, those are all things that really have to go into play. And that's why we don't show them on the air, right? Because then you're going to say, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and, we have to figure all these things out. To me, that's why the biggest issue of showing these maps online, that's a different one. I showed you the wrong one. Let me close that one real quick. I'm going to add a new one. I did not copy and paste my browser correctly. Let me find that. No problem. I just want to show you two of them because it's just the easiest to do. You've got that one up there, so you got that fresh in your mind. It looks like we're getting a ton of snow, right? I'm not even going to show. I think it allows me to go over and show these numbers, but I'm going to show you the totally different option here. Yeah, this is better. So watch how this is a totally different model. I'm going to go across here and pull this down a little bit, right? Okay, so now I should be able to go back and show you. So let's look at the differences between the two, right? They're totally different. A lot of snow in one, not as much in the other. These are just, to me, these are just two of them, right? These are just two of the snow, and they don't even take into effect all the stuff that accumulates and what's going on. So that's what's a really important thing for me. And when you look at, oh my gosh, look at this, it's showing 6, 7 inches, right? 8 inches, right? And then you go to the south, it's not as much. Same for this thing. This is showing a ton of snow. Let me hit this one. This one shows 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. Look at all this, 16 inches of snow. And to me, that's 100% ridiculous. For these very reasons, why we don't know. We don't know if the temperatures are going to be below freezing, and one of those models is skewed way below freezing, so of course it's going to want to snow a ton. There's plenty of moisture with this system. So to me, that's why this is important for us to be really careful about what we're seeing in regards to all this stuff. The other thing that I point out before I answer some of your questions is, there's still, you can still take a guess on the first inch of snow. I think this is kind of, we still have this for another couple of days. Now, if you've already taken your guess on ksdk.com/contest, you can actually take a look at it. You win $500, right? So if you're going to take a stab at it, maybe you want to take a stab at, it's going to snow an inch on Saturday, right? This is at least something, this is as close to the end of the contest and the guessing the inch of snow in St. Louis as you're going to be, right? You look at our predictions, right? If you want to just base off our predictions, mine was December 7th. It may still be, right? But the other ones historically are much later. So I point this out just because we're talking about snow right now before I answer your questions. And, you can go back there right now and look at that. That's where you can take a look at it. So for the most part, our average first inch of snow in St. Louis is December 22nd. So this would be above average and certainly earlier than the first 5 years. But it's not out of the question. We get some heavy snow, and it's enough to measure really quickly at Lambert, and you get an inch. Hey, that's not out of the question. That could be something that we continue to look at through tomorrow. So like I said, That's how cold it's going to be. I'm going to flash the 10-day forecast up now, and I'm going to answer your questions here as we look ahead. So we got a couple here that I want to look at. Colin asked how many inches of snow do you think? And I hope I try to answer that question the best that I can. I think that it is possible that there could be some spots to the north that get 2 to 3 inches of snow, but it's Tuesday and there still are a lot of variables. This particular system that's going to affect us still is not even inside the United States, inside Canada, where it has measuring instruments that's going to go in it. So the position of it and how cold it's going to be, to me, right now we're going to be above freezing, but it's if that snow can overcome the above freezing temperatures. Hunter asked if there's going to be ice on the roads. I think that's more of a concern to me because I think we're going to see once all this continues, and even if it rains, well, then overnight it refreezes, and I think we may see some slick spots Saturday night into Sunday. That could be an additional problem as well. Jimmy asked, I live in Eureka, how much snow are we getting over the weekend? Jimmy, I think it's a tough question to answer right now because I think even in Eureka, we may see temperatures above freezing. So you could see, in theory, 2 to 3 inches fall, but maybe it doesn't stick that much. Maybe it only sticks for about a half an inch. Then we have a warm ground and it melts. But we could have a 3 to 4 hour period where it's a real problem. Mindy asks, I'm concerned about slick roads. I have to transport a patient to dialysis on Saturday at 10 a.m. Mindy, I think I've had questions like yours before, and I think at 10 a.m. things are going to start to improve. To me, it's before that, but it's going to be at another half an hour. This is not going to cripple the roads. We're going to see, we have temperatures that are warmer than average, right? We are warm, the ground is very warm, even if something sticks. By 10 a.m. the sun is up, and we're going to start to see, even if we don't see the sun, which I doubt we will, that makes a difference on how the roads are going to be stuck. So I think that's what we're going to focus on the most. Let's see if we have any information on the chat line. I got that up. So like I said, those are the main answers that we have in terms of what's going on. You can always ask those questions there as well. Like I said, the main story for us is the fact that we are going to see conditions outside that are going to be near freezing on Saturday morning. So let's see. I know I'm going to make sure that they respond to that as well. But like I said, main story is we're near freezing Saturday. We got rain and snow on Sunday, and it may not stick, but travel is much more difficult. That's what we'll highlight here. But I will talk to you guys a little bit later on for that. And overall, we'll try to answer your questions. I'll post this into the thing and on KSTK.com, and you'll see this on 5 Plus as well. Until then, we hope you stay safe.